A chill wind whips through the narrow alley, carrying with it the scent of stale waste and chamber pots. Rain slicks the cobbles, reflecting the dim glow of oil lamplight. Above, the rooftops of Prague's old town seem to close in, crowding the space like gossiping neighbors. Somewhere a dog barks, a cat hisses, a drunk lurches past, nearly knocking you over. This is the city's underbelly, a maze of tunnels and sewers hidden beneath the bustling medieval streets. And here, where centuries of grime and decay should have made any explorer long for fresh air, you feel only an inexplicable pull, an urge to press on deeper into the earth. With every step, the air grows heavier, more cloying, until it feels like wading through treacle. You push aside a tattered velvet curtain, revealing a sight that stops you in your tracks. Before you gapes a yawning chasm, bridged by a single slab of stone worn smooth by countless footsteps. In the dim light filtering down from the shaft above, you can make out the etchings on the stone, an ancient warning to all who would disturb the slumbering city below. But something about the scene before you, perhaps the promise of cool shade in the stifling heat, draws you closer. Ignoring the ominous carvings, you cross the bridge and descend the steps until you reach a massive iron gate set into the rock face. With a rusty shriek, it swings open, revealing what lies at the heart of Prague's underworld. But why? Why are you here? Who are you? Are you a daring adventurer, an intrepid archaeologist, or simply someone who stumbled upon this hidden place by accident? The answers lie within the depths of the earth, waiting to be uncovered. For this is no ordinary entrance. It is a portal to a realm beyond our own, a world untouched by time and shrouded in mystery. So, brace yourself, traveler, for what awaits you in the darkness may change you forever. Welcome to my channel. Today, we will join a team of archaeologists in Prague who have just unearthed this strange passageway leading deep below the city. What secrets will they uncover in the suffocating darkness? Let's find out. As you slowly descend into the tunnel, the weight of the earth pressing down on you, you begin to lose track of time. The air grows thick and heavy, making each breath a labored effort. You pause, fanning yourself with a piece of cloth, willing the oppressive heat to subside. But it's no use. Here, hundreds of feet below the bustling streets of Prague, the temperature climbs steadily, rising to a stifling degree. Yet amidst this discomfort, a strange phenomenon occurs. Your heartbeat quickens, your pulse races, and you feel an unexpected surge of adrenaline. Each step into the unknown takes you deeper into a world untouched by modern life. And as you venture further, a sense of anticipation builds. What wonders or horrors await you in the dimly lit depths? And just when you think things can't get any weirder, the smell hits you. A stench so pungent and nauseating it brings tears to your eyes. What could be the source of this foul odor? To understand what you might be smelling, let's take a moment to explore the tunnels themselves. These subterranean passages aren't your typical sewage system. Instead, they resemble the labyrinthine catacombs found throughout Europe, particularly in cities like Paris, Rome, and Vienna. They are dark, dank, and often claustrophobic. The tunnels are typically narrow, forcing explorers to crawl on their hands and knees to navigate them. Sometimes the passages are barely large enough for a person to fit through, making movement nearly impossible. The darkness is absolute, impenetrable, and the air is thick with the smell of decay, the stench of death. The slightest sound echoes ominously, bouncing off the damp walls and amplifying in the confined space. It's easy to imagine the fear and claustrophobia that would grip anyone venturing too far into these subterranean depths. But now let's return to that terrible smell. The stench of decay and death hangs heavy in the air, a testament to the countless souls who have perished in these tunnels. Could there be more down here? Has anyone ever explored this particular part of the catacombs before? Perhaps you'll find out soon. As you push on, you notice peculiar symbols carved into the tunnel walls. These mysterious markings seem to tell a story, but one you can't quite decipher. To truly comprehend what you're witnessing, we must delve into the historical context of Prague's underground tunnels. These subterranean passages were once an integral part of the city's infrastructure, serving both practical and symbolic purposes. During the Middle Ages, Prague was a thriving metropolis, and like any bustling city, it had its share of problems. Waste disposal was one such issue. In the absence of modern sanitation systems, the city's residents had to find ways to deal with their waste, and they did so by simply throwing it into the nearest sewer or open ditch. Over time, these waste disposal methods created a network of tunnels and chambers beneath the city streets, forming what we today call the sewer system. However, these underground passages served more than just as a means of waste disposal. They also played a role in the city's defense. In times of war or siege, the tunnels provided a way for citizens to move around the city without being exposed to the dangers above. Additionally, the tunnels were used as hiding places for livestock and food stores, ensuring that the inhabitants of Prague had access to essential resources in times of crisis. Moreover, the tunnels held religious significance. In some cases, they were used as burial grounds, and the bones of those who died were interred in the labyrinthine passages. This practice was particularly common during outbreaks of plague, when cemeteries were overcrowded and traditional burial rituals could not be followed. As a result, the tunnels became a resting place for thousands of souls, and the air grew thick with the scent of death and decay. Now, as you continue your journey through the tunnels, you realize that this is not just a haphazard collection of passages and chambers. There is a method to the madness, a logic to the seemingly random layout. The tunnels are laid out in a way that makes sense, and there is a reason behind their construction. The network of tunnels extends over several acres, a testament to the ingenuity and determination of those who built them. The tunnels are not just a series of haphazardly dug holes, but a carefully planned network of passageways and chambers, a true marvel of medieval engineering. The builders of the tunnels used sophisticated techniques to ensure that the passages were stable and secure, and they employed innovative methods to keep the tunnels free of water and waste. But despite the care that went into their construction, the tunnels were not without their problems. Over the years, the passages became clogged with debris and waste, and the air grew thick with the stench of decay. Additionally, the tunnels were prone to flooding, and the threat of water damage was a constant concern for those who used them. Despite these challenges, the people of Prague continued to use the tunnels for centuries, relying on their usefulness as a means of waste disposal, transportation, and even burial. It wasn't until the 19th century that the city began to invest in a more modern sewer system, and the tunnels were gradually abandoned. Today, visitors can explore parts of the tunnels that have been restored and opened to the public, giving them a glimpse into the fascinating history of Prague's underground. But for now, you are still trapped in the tunnels with no clear way out. Will you manage to escape? Or are you fated to wander the tunnels forever? Only time will tell. Suddenly, a noise echoes through the tunnels, a sound that sends chills down your spine. At first you think it's just your imagination, a figment of your fear-addled brain. But then you hear it again, a low, guttural growl that seems to come from the very walls themselves. Could there be something else down here with you? Some creature lurking in the darkness? Something that shouldn't exist? As you stand frozen in fear, unsure of what to do next, the growling continues, slowly getting louder, more menacing. Whatever is out there is getting closer. Suddenly, the creature emerges from the shadows, and you see that it's unlike anything you've ever seen before. It's a grotesque, misshapen beast with sharp teeth and claws, its eyes glowing red in the dim light. You scream and try to run, but it's too late. The creature pounces, its claws digging into your flesh. You feel the searing pain of its bite, and then everything goes black. To escape the clutches of this nightmarish creature, click on one of the 2 videos that appear on screen now. In one of them, you will find your salvation. Hurry up, time is running out. Their torches sputtered in the damp air, throwing grotesque shadows from the ancient walls onto the growing pile of bones at their feet. Deeper and deeper into the catacombs they went, the 4 explorers, 2 men and 2 women, their breathing the only sound disturbing the silence. They were searching for something special, something unique, a lost piece of history that might help Professor Eldridge return to his world. But the deeper they descended, the more uneasy they all felt. The air grew colder, and the flickering torchlight seemed to bring the faces on the walls to life. And the voice that had been echoing ever since they entered the catacombs, was growing louder. The walls of the tunnel were covered in etchings, most of them prayers to the Roman gods, but there were other images too, scenes of torture and death, and one face that seemed to stare directly at them. The face on the wall shifted. Amelia gasped. "Did you see that? Did that wall just move?" she whispered urgently, her eyes wide with fear. "Don't be silly," said Daniel, though his tone was sharp and there was no humor in it. "It's just the flickering light. There's nothing to be afraid of down here." But even as he spoke, the air grew colder and a low growl echoed through the tunnels, sending shivers down their spines. They pressed on, the sound of dripping water growing louder until they reached a large cavern. In the center of the room was a single stone monolith, intricately carved with scenes of the underworld. It was clear this place had once been an altar. But what had been happening here? Why had these people come to this subterranean labyrinth to worship the dead? Suddenly, Thomas, the quietest of the group, spoke up. "Look." He pointed to a crevice in the wall where a leather-bound diary protruded. Carefully, he pulled it out and brushed off the centuries of dust. The diary was old, its pages brittle and yellowed, but the ink was still legible. And as Daniel began to read, the others leaned in, their faces illuminated by the flickering torchlight, eager to hear the secrets of the catacombs. Daniel cleared his throat and began to read. "Here, within these chambers of eternal night, where shadows dance and spirits take flight, I write these words for all to see. A warning dire, a fate severe. Beware the curse that lies in wait for those who dare to enter here. For years we toiled to craft this place, a sanctuary for souls to find grace. But greed and envy took their toll, and now our spirits roam, taking their toll. So turn back now, while time allows, lest you become what we deplore, trapped in darkness evermore." The explorers froze, the hairs on their necks prickling. They had found the diary of the catacombs, and it contained a chilling warning. Had they already been cursed? The hair on the back of Amelia's neck stood on end. The diary was cold to the touch, as if the chill of the catacombs itself had seeped into its pages. Its warnings echoed through the vast chambers, leaving them with a choice: flee while they still could, or face the consequences of the curse. But curiosity burned bright in their hearts, urging them forward, deeper into the labyrinth of bones. They continued their descent, the weight of the curse pressing down on them like a physical burden. The air grew thick, making it hard to breathe. And then they saw it. Etched into the wall was a symbol they had seen before, the symbol on the diary cover. It was a depiction of a key that unlocked not just a door, but a fate. The explorers knew they were approaching the heart of the curse, but what did it mean for them? Professor Eldridge, his face pale, traced the lines of the key. "This is the crux, the core of this place. Whoever enters here willingly becomes part of the curse." His voice echoed in the vast chamber, barely audible over the sound of their pounding hearts. Thomas, ever the pragmatist, stepped forward. "So, we need to destroy it, break the curse once and for all." He motioned to the wall with the butt of his gun, ready to shatter the symbol and free the spirits of the catacombs. But Amelia reached out, stopping his hand. "Wait, what if there's another way? The diary warned us about becoming part of the curse, but it didn't say we couldn't escape it." Her eyes shone with determination. "If they trapped their souls here, then surely there must be a way to release them. We just have to find it." The explorers split up, each searching every nook and cranny of the chamber. Time seemed to stand still as they combed through the centuries-old tunnels, desperation edging closer with every passing moment. The air grew heavy, making it hard to breathe, as if the spirits of the catacombs were testing their resolve. Then, just when hope seemed to flicker and fade, Daniel stumbled upon a hidden passage. It was concealed behind a hanging stalactite, its entrance disguised as a natural formation. As he brushed away the dust, revealing a narrow opening, a sense of urgency propelled him forward. He found himself in a small chamber, the air thick with the scent of decay. In the center stood a pedestal made of bone, and on it a silver chalice. The chalice pulsed with a faint, eerie light, and as Daniel reached for it, a voice echoed through the chamber. "So you seek to break the curse? Then prove yourself worthy. Choose wisely, for your choice shall determine the fate of many." Before Daniel could respond, the voice faded, leaving him alone in the cavern with the pulsating chalice. Its glow intensified, revealing two distinct sections, one filled with a swirling black mist, the other with a radiant white light. Each held a different path, a different outcome. The explorers, drawn by the mysterious voice, gathered around the pedestal. Their faces, illuminated by the chalice's glow, were etched with determination and fear. "What do you think we should do?" whispered Amelia, her eyes fixed on the swirling mists. "We don't have much of a choice, do we?" replied Thomas, his gaze unwavering. "We need to break the curse and set these souls free." But Professor Eldridge hesitated. The diary had warned them of a trap, and this chalice, with its contrasting paths, seemed to be just that. "There must be a catch," he murmured, his eyes scanning the room for clues. Daniel, however, was intrigued. He looked from the swirling mist to the radiant light, feeling an inexplicable pull towards the former. The voice had spoken of proving themselves worthy, of determining the fate of many. What did it mean? As if sensing his thoughts, the voice boomed once more, "Choose quickly, for time is short. Your decision will have consequences far-reaching and profound." The stakes were clear. Their decision would impact not just themselves, but countless souls trapped within the catacombs. With a deep breath, Daniel stepped forward, his eyes fixed on the swirling mist. This was the test, the final hurdle in their quest to break the curse. As he reached out, the mist swirled faster, beckoning him closer. In that moment, he understood. The diary had spoken of a key, and what better way to unlock a curse than with the very essence of the catacombs itself? The mist, the embodiment of the trapped souls, the lingering echoes of their despair, their suffering. If the curse was bound to the catacombs, then so were its victims. By choosing the mist, he was choosing them, offering them a chance at peace. With a firm grip, he reached into the swirling mass. The air grew cold as if the very temperature of the catacombs had shifted. Then, as suddenly as it began, the mist cleared, revealing a shimmering vial. In his hands, the vial pulsed with a soft, ethereal light, a beacon amidst the darkness. He turned to the others, their faces pale in the dim torchlight, and held up the vial. "I think we just might have a chance at breaking this curse after all." When they rounded the final bend in the tunnel, the explorers found themselves in a huge cavern stretching as far as their torches could light. At first, it was hard to make out details in the gloom, but slowly they began to discern the outlines of countless skulls stacked in front of them. They had come across one of the most terrifying sights imaginable, a veritable charnel house beneath the earth where thousands upon thousands of human skulls had been deposited, seemingly left there on purpose. There were so many that at first the explorers couldn't tell if they were looking at a pile or a wall. But then they started noticing patterns within the macabre jumble of bones. Skulls were laid out in rows, in spirals, even in circles. And when the explorers shone their torches into the depths of the chamber, they saw that many of the patterns were actually huge symbols, some resembling strange gods, others like grotesque flowers. To them, these must have been some kind of warning, a desperate message from the dead. But what did they say? What did this subterranean labyrinth want with all these skulls? And then one of the explorers vanished. She'd only been a few feet away from the others a moment before, but now she was gone. They called her name, but there was no answer except the drip, drip, drip of water somewhere in the darkness. She must have fallen behind and gotten lost in the tunnels, they thought, but as they searched for her they discovered something that made their blood run cold. There were bloody fingernail marks on the stone wall, as if whoever had made them had been desperately trying to climb out of the pit. But why? And where had she gone? The explorers' descent into the earth had begun 2 days before. It had been a long and arduous journey through the twisting passages beneath the mountain, but they'd finally reached their goal, the legendary City of the Dead. Legend said that anyone who entered would never come back. Yet here they were. Of course, they had taken precautions. Before descending into the dark, dank tunnels, they had agreed on a series of hand signals to communicate in the dark and the silent, creeping dread that inevitably descended on those who ventured below. Each explorer had also taken a thick rope with them, enough to reach the bottom and leave a length at the top for safety. After hours of walking, the explorers came to a fork in the tunnel. Using their ropes, they secured themselves and prepared to explore both passages. After what felt like an eternity, they reconvened at the center point, each empty-handed but eager to share stories of their discoveries. One of the explorers, however, failed to appear. The others waited patiently for a few minutes, but she was nowhere to be seen. They called out her name, but only silence answered them. Concerned, they began to search the tunnels, calling out for her and keeping a lookout for any signs of her. At last, they found her, or rather, they found traces of her. The explorers came across what looked like a small cave, and as they approached, they heard a low growl emanating from within. With bated breath, they peered inside and saw a huge spider scuttling away. It wasn't dangerous, just big and hairy enough to startle them. But as they moved further into the cave, they noticed something else, something that made them freeze in their tracks. In the dim light, they could see a set of bloody fingernail marks on the wall, as if someone had been desperately clawing at it, trying to get out. Could this be the missing explorer? Had she been attacked by something or someone down here? As they cautiously explored the tunnels, they came across more and more of these marks. It became clear that whatever had happened to their companion hadn't been an accident. Someone or something had been stalking her, driving her deeper and deeper into the labyrinth. But who would be down here? What lurked in the depths of this subterranean labyrinth? At the end of the tunnel, the explorers came across a large chamber. As their torches flickered, they realized with a jolt that they weren't alone. In the flickering glow, they saw countless skulls stacked up against the walls. At first, it was impossible to tell how many there were, but as they moved closer, the full extent of the grim display became clear. They were surrounded by thousands upon thousands of skulls, each one bearing silent witness to the horrors of the past. Some were old and weathered, while others were still stained with fresh blood. The sight was both fascinating and repulsive, and the explorers couldn't help but feel a sense of dread wash over them. As they moved further into the chamber, they began to notice patterns in the skulls. They were arranged in rows, in spirals, and even in circles. And as their torches flickered, they realized with a jolt that many of the patterns were actually huge symbols, some resembling strange gods, others like grotesque flowers. It was clear that this was no ordinary burial ground. This was a place of power, a place where the dead had been deliberately arranged to send a message. But what was that message? What did the skulls want with them? As the explorers continued to examine the skulls, they noticed something else. Many of them were missing teeth, and the sockets were filled with strange symbols. Were these markings some kind of code? Was there some kind of hidden meaning behind the arrangement of the skulls? The explorers decided to take a closer look. As they moved the skulls, they found more markings, this time carved into the stone beneath them. It was clear that they were dealing with something ancient and powerful, something that had been buried deep in the earth for centuries. And then one of the explorers vanished. He'd only been a few feet away from the others a moment before, but now he was gone. They called his name, but there was no answer except the drip, drip, drip of water somewhere in the darkness. He must have fallen behind and gotten lost in the tunnels, they thought. But as they searched for him, they discovered something that made their blood run cold. There were bloody fingernail marks on the stone wall, as if whoever had made them had been desperately trying to climb out of the pit. But why? And where had he gone? The explorers split up and began searching the tunnels, calling out for their companion. But after hours of searching, they found no trace of him. They retraced their steps, examined every passage, but there was no sign of their missing friend. Just when they were about to give up hope, they heard a noise in the distance, a faint scratching sound. It seemed to be coming from the same chamber where they had found the skulls. As they cautiously approached, the scratching grew louder, more frantic. Then they saw it, or rather, they saw him. Their companion was standing in the center of the skull arrangement, his clothes torn and his face covered in blood. Behind him, the scratches made by his fingernails glistened in the torchlight. But as they reached out to help him, he suddenly screamed and thrashed wildly. His eyes were wide with terror, his skin clammy and pale. "Get away," he cried, his voice hoarse and strained. "Don't come any closer." The explorers froze. What had happened to their companion? Why was he acting this way? Suddenly, the scratching began again, louder and more frantic than before. All eyes turned towards the sound, and they saw with a jolt that the skulls were moving. They were shifting and rearranging themselves, forming new patterns and shapes. The explorers watched in horror as the skulls formed a giant spiral in the center of the chamber. Then, as if sensing their presence, they began to turn towards them, their empty sockets seeming to stare right at them. The explorers stood frozen, unable to move or speak. They had stumbled upon something truly terrifying, something that defied explanation. Then, as if sensing their fear, the skulls began to move again, slithering and sliding until they formed a single word, a warning, a threat. The explorers read it, and their hearts sank. It spelled doom. The air hung heavy with the scent of dust and decay as our team descended deeper into the catacombs. Each step echoed in the oppressive silence, amplifying the sense of isolation and foreboding. We were spelunkers, explorers seeking the thrill of discovery, but even the most seasoned members of our group couldn't shake off the unsettling feeling that we were being watched. This particular catacomb was a labyrinth of underground tunnels and chambers, a subterranean city hiding beneath the bustling streets of Rome. It was here that the secrets of the past lay buried, or so we thought. For what we were about to discover was something that would challenge our perception of reality and leave us questioning the very nature of existence. As we ventured deeper into this underground labyrinth, the darkness seemed to close in around us, pressing in from all sides. The only illumination came from our headlamps, casting dancing shadows that played hide-and-seek among the weathered tombstones. But it was these shadows that held the first clue to the mystery that lay at the heart of the catacombs. For there, in the flickering light, we saw movement, a shadow that seemed to shift and change, taking on a life of its own. At first, we dismissed it as a trick of the light, a figment of our imagination fueled by the oppressive atmosphere. But as we continued our exploration, the shadow persisted, following us from chamber to chamber, always remaining just out of sight, yet somehow always present. The unease that had been growing within me until then turned into a full-blown sense of dread. This was no ordinary place. There was something here with us, something dark and sinister that lurked in the shadows, observing us. Then we found the chamber with the altar. Carved into its surface were images and symbols that hinted at the darkness that permeated this place. As I reached out to touch it, an inscription caught my eye. It spoke of a guardian, an entity that had been sealed within the catacombs to protect its secrets from the eyes of the living. Could this be the source of the unsettling presence we had been sensing? Was there truly a protector of the catacombs, a warden of the darkness watching over the secrets it held? We tried reasoning it away. Maybe someone had snuck in behind us and was playing some sick joke. But as we turned, the corridor behind us was empty, the entrance swallowed by the darkness. We were alone in this subterranean labyrinth with whatever else may have been down here. One of the members of our team, a skeptic by nature, suggested we continue exploring rather than let fear dictate our actions. And so we pressed on, venturing deeper into the catacombs, determined to uncover the truth of this place and the entity that haunted it. In the ensuing moments, the oppressive atmosphere of the catacombs seemed to intensify. The temperature dropped, sending a shiver down my spine. I could feel the weight of unseen eyes upon us, making each step feel like a monumental effort. And then we found him. Or rather, he found us. Emerging from the shadows, his form coalescing before our very eyes. He was the embodiment of the darkness that permeated these tunnels, a creature of shadow and dread. His eyes, burning embers in the gloom, seemed to pierce through us, dissecting our fears and doubts. It was as if the very essence of the catacombs had taken shape, given form to the darkness that had been growing around us. In that instant, the legends whispered among the tombs came to life. The tales of the catacombs guarding Rome's darkest secret, protecting it with a horror that defied the light of day. His voice, when he finally spoke, was a rasping echo, as though the very walls of the catacombs were crying out in pain and warning. He introduced himself as the Keeper, the one who had been tasked with safeguarding this place and its secrets for eternity. He explained that he was bound to the catacombs, unable to leave or to die, forever cursed to wander these tunnels and watch over the darkness that lay hidden here. The knowledge that he had been betrayed, that the secret he was sworn to protect was now threatened, filled him with an otherworldly rage. In his eyes, we saw centuries of pain and suffering, of unspeakable horrors that had been concealed within these very catacombs. He was the living embodiment of the catacombs' tormented history, a guardian consumed by his eternal duty. Yet, despite his menacing appearance and the palpable aura of menace that surrounded him, there was a deep sadness in his voice that tugged at my empathy. I saw a tortured soul, trapped between his duty and the desire for release. With every word he spoke, more of the catacombs' grim history unfolded before us. He told us of the atrocities committed here, of the lives lost, and the secrets buried deep within the earth. As he delved deeper into the catacombs' dark past, I realized that this was more than just a place of burial. It was a repository of nightmares, a tomb where some secrets were better left undisturbed. I felt a profound sense of responsibility settle upon me. If he had served as the catacombs' guardian for so long, enduring centuries of torment, then it was our duty to help him find peace. In that moment, I knew we weren't just explorers seeking adventure. We were the key to ending the Keeper's eternal suffering. His fate, and perhaps the fate of the secrets he guarded, rested in our hands. But how could we help an entity born of darkness find peace? And what would happen if the secrets of the catacombs were brought to light? Questions that echoed in the darkness, unanswered, yet urgent. The Keeper led us deeper into the catacombs, his footsteps silent on the ancient stone. He showed us chambers where the walls were marred by unspeakable horrors, where the very air seemed to scream of pain and anguish. Each chamber was a testament to the darkness that had festered within the catacombs, a darkness that had birthed the Keeper and twisted him into the tormented being he now was. Among the tunnels and tombs, he revealed the source of the catacombs' power, the nexus of the darkness that had corrupted him, and those unfortunate souls who had crossed his path. It was an entity as old as the catacombs themselves, a malevolent force that fed on fear and despair. I could feel its presence like a physical weight pressing down on us, suffocating hope and twisting reason. Its whispers slithered into my mind, tempting me with visions of unimaginable horrors that had occurred within the catacombs' hidden depths. The Keeper fought against the darkness, his form flickering as he struggled to maintain his hold over the shadows that threatened to consume him. His voice hoarse with the effort, he warned us of the danger we faced. But I knew we were in too deep. The darkness had ensnared us, feeding on our fears and doubts. The whispers grew louder, promising power and knowledge if we would only yield to the darkness. The keeper stumbled, his form wavering as the darkness pressed its attack. With a desperate cry, he reached out to us, his last hope for salvation. I knew in that moment that we were the only ones who could help him. The fate of the catacombs, its secrets and its tormented guardian, rested in our hands. The decision was agonizing. To save the keeper meant confronting the darkness that had corrupted him, facing the very horrors he had been trying to contain for centuries. Yet to turn back now would mean condemning him to a lifetime of suffering. The choice was ours, but the consequences would be dire either way. With a deep breath, I reached out to the keeper, drawing strength from the bonds of camaraderie that had formed among our group. Together, we were a beacon of hope in the suffocating darkness. Our combined determination lent him strength, allowing him to stabilize his form and push back against the encroaching shadows. In that moment of unity, we discovered the power of collective courage. The keeper's gratitude echoed in his voice as he looked upon us, his eyes flickering with newfound hope. But the darkness wasn't finished with us yet. It lashed out, its tendrils reaching for us, seeking to drag us into its suffocating embrace. But we stood firm, our resolve a bulwark against the encroaching shadows. With a final surge of strength, we pushed back against the darkness, driving it back into the recesses from which it had come. The catacombs trembled as the darkness recoiled, its whispers fading into frustrated murmurs. For now, we had won, but the battle was far from over. The keeper, his form flickering with exhaustion, urged us to leave the catacombs while we still could. He knew that the darkness would regroup, that it would lie in wait for another opportunity to strike. We knew he was right, but leaving him now, knowing he faced the darkness alone, felt like abandoning a comrade in arms. As we prepared to leave, the keeper spoke, his voice echoing with the weight of centuries. He thanked us, his words laden with emotion, for helping him find solace after so many years of torment. He shared the secrets of the catacombs with us, tales that would forever be etched in my memory, a testament to the horrors that had transpired within these underground chambers. With heavy hearts, we said our goodbyes, knowing that our paths would likely never cross again. We promised to honor his sacrifice, to carry his story with us, and to ensure that the secrets of the catacombs remained hidden, if not from the world, then at least from those who would exploit them for their own nefarious purposes. As we ascended from the catacombs, leaving the oppressive darkness behind, I couldn't help but look back. The entrance to the catacombs seemed to loom like a gaping maw, swallowing the light and casting an ominous shadow upon the bustling city above. Rome, with its rich history and vibrant life, seemed a world away from the horrors we had just witnessed. Yet I knew that the secrets we had uncovered lay dormant beneath the city's heart, waiting to be rediscovered or perhaps to be left undisturbed. The keeper's sacrifice echoed in my mind, a solemn reminder of the darkness that can lurk in the shadows of even the most glorious civilizations. His story became a part of me, a burden and an honor, and I knew I would carry it with me for the rest of my life. Welcome back to the channel. This is a special episode of Lore. This story takes place in the same universe as our other series, Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. It's a Dungeons & Dragons actual playset in the world of Eberron. And while you can totally listen to this as a standalone adventure, if you're following along with our campaign, we suggest you grab some snacks and settle in, because this is going to be a long one. But before we get started, let's introduce you to our players for this one-shot adventure. We have 4 new faces joining us today. We've got Hector, played by Brenna, who is a Furbolg druid, kind of a nature-loving big lug. Then there's Talia, played by Anthony, who is a halfling rogue, nimble, quick, and full of surprises. Next is Kyland, played by Jared, a dragonborn paladin who fights for what he believes in with righteous fury. And finally, there's Zana, played by Austin, a changeling warlock who dabbles in dark magic. These four adventurers are brought together by circumstance, seeking fortune and glory in the great city of Sharn. But boy, are they about to get more than they bargained for. Our story begins in the catacombs beneath the great city of Zendrik, a sprawling labyrinth of tunnels that stretch deep under the largest city in all of Corvair. Our heroes find themselves at the center of this subterranean labyrinth, standing before a massive obsidian coffin adorned with terrifying visages. Vines and fungi creep across its surface, glowing faintly in the otherwise pitch-black chamber. The only light source comes from the faint bioluminescence of the cavern itself and the eerie green glow of the crystals embedded in the coffin, which pulse with an unnatural rhythm. Before any of them can speak, the ground trembles and the walls of the catacombs begin to groan and shift. Rocks cascade down from the ceiling, narrowly missing our heroes as the tunnel collapses behind them, sealing their fate in this subterranean tomb. Coughing and stumbling through the rubble, the group quickly assesses their situation. They're trapped, and whoever or whatever was buried here didn't want them to disturb the slumbering evil within. As the dust settles, the horrifying truth becomes clear. A single tunnel now connects them to the rest of the catacombs, barring any escape. And from the coffin, a low growl rumbles like distant thunder. Vines and fungi writhe as if alive, and the green glow intensifies, casting grotesque shadows that dance around the chamber. The air grows heavy, charged with a palpable sense of dread and malevolence. Whatever is in that coffin doesn't want to stay put. Now, when they first arrived at the catacombs, our heroes were hired by a mysterious noble named Lossian Silvermere. He offered them a hefty sum of gold to retrieve a specific relic from the depths of the underground necropolis. Said relic happened to be within this very coffin. According to Lucius, the item was an heirloom of House Cannith, an ancient artifact of immense power that had been lost for generations. He claimed it held sentimental value and was eager to offer a reward beyond their wildest dreams for its return. However, little did they know they were merely pawns in a sinister game orchestrated by Lucius, who sought to awaken the very horror entombed within the catacombs. As the coffin begins to tremble, signaling the awakening of its occupant, the adventurers must make a choice. They could try and flee through the newly collapsed tunnel, hoping to find another way out of the catacombs. Or they could stay and face whatever horrors emerge from the coffin, possibly teaming up with whoever or whatever is inside to take on the forces of the living. Or maybe there's another option entirely. Perhaps this isn't a fight that needs to happen at all. Maybe there's a way to stop whatever is happening before it even starts. What will they choose? Well, that's up to you, the viewers at home. This is an interactive story. What you see on your screen right now are 3 doors. Door number 1 is labeled Flee. Door number 2 is labeled Fight. And door number 3 is labeled Parley. Which door will our heroes choose? If you want our heroes to flee, then type the word flee in the comments section below. If you want them to fight, then type the word fight in the comments section below. And if you want them to try and parley with the creature inside the coffin, then type the word parley in the comments section below. While you're making up your mind, let's check in on our heroes. Zana, the changeling warlock, nervously adjusts her mask, her eyes darting between the pulsating coffin and the collapsed tunnel. The thought of escape is tempting, but the promise of the reward offered by Lord Silvermere echoes in her mind. What if this danger is just a means to a greater end? Suddenly, the growl from the coffin intensifies, urging them to decide quickly. Xanax draws her blade, ready for whatever comes next. Meanwhile, Kyland, the dragonborn paladin, stands firm, his holy symbol glinting in the eerie green light. He senses an overwhelming aura of evil emanating from the coffin and feels compelled to destroy it. As the walls of the catacombs begin to shake violently, Talia, the halfling rogue, hides behind a stalagmite, peeking out cautiously. She considers her options, weighing the risks of flight against the perils of confrontation. What's trapped in that coffin is clearly powerful, but might there be a way to reason with it? Taking a deep breath, she prepares to strike if needed. Finally, Hector, the furball druid, steps forward, placing a calming hand on Talia's shoulder. His connection to the natural world gives him a sense of foreboding, yet he feels drawn to the ancient energy emanating from the coffin. Could there be a peaceful resolution to this crisis, or will they face the wrath of whatever lurks within? So again, what will our heroes do? Will they flee, fight, or parley? It's up to you, the viewers at home. Comment below with either flee, fight, or parley. Alright, now that you've made your choice, let's see how it plays out. If you chose to flee, then roll a d20 and add your character's dexterity modifier. On a 10 or higher, you manage to squeeze through the rubble and escape the catacombs. The entrance collapses behind you, and you hear the roar of the awakened horror as it's left behind. You found the relic, you completed the mission, and you lived to tell the tale. Consider this adventure over for you. You win. But if you chose to fight or parley, well, things didn't go quite as smoothly for those groups. The growling intensifies and the coffin begins to tremble violently. With a sickening crack, it splits in two, sending shards of obsidian flying through the chamber. From the gaping maw that is now the coffin, tendrils of darkness writhe and lash out, striking at our heroes. The air grows frigid as an unnatural cold emanates from the creature, chilling the very marrow in their bones. From the depths of the catacombs rises an emaciated figure swathed in tattered robes. Its eyes glow with an eerie green light, burning with otherworldly power. The creature stirs, revealing itself as a gaunt humanoid, its skin stretched taut over sharp bones. Its limbs are impossibly thin, like the branches of a gnarled tree, and its fingers curl and twist into gnarly claws. Wisps of decayed flesh hang from its frame, and a foul stench clings to it, reeking of decay and forgotten tombs. With a raspy, echoing voice, the creature speaks, its words dripping with malice. "Who dares disturb my slumber? You trespassers shall pay the ultimate price." Its gaze sweeps over our heroes, lingering on each one before settling back on the coffin, now broken and smoldering. Taking a moment to regain their composure, the adventurers prepare for action. Xanathar, quick on her feet, darts behind a stalagmite, her bow drawn taut, ready to unleash an arrow. Kalen steps forward, his holy weapon raised, a shield emblazoned with the symbol of his order held firm against the encroaching darkness. Hector, drawing upon the strength of the earth, places his gnarled hands on the ground, vines and roots snaking out from the catacomb's floor to entangle the creature. Talia, agile and resourceful, throws a vial at the creature's feet, the liquid within sizzling as it hits the ground. Thus begins an epic battle as our heroes clash with the creature, their combined might and determination tested to the very limit. Will they prevail against this formidable foe, or will the catacombs claim another victim? Only time and their collective strength will tell. But that's going to have to be the end of Part 1, friends, because like last year, we're releasing this special episode as a mini-series. So if you're watching this and you're excited to see how this story unfolds, then I encourage you to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, and follow us on social media. We'll be bringing you the next part of this story very soon. Until then, here's a sneak peek of our next release. But I'm not going to say anything else. Just watch. The survivor's heart pounds against their ribs, a frantic tattoo as they scramble over the rubble, desperately seeking an exit. Above, the entrance to the catacomb seems impossibly distant, a gaping maw that has become a tomb rather than a portal to freedom. All around them, the bones of the departed scrape and grind against each other, a macabre symphony of death composing itself in the oppressive darkness. Their headlamp, a feeble sun, does little to pierce the gloom, its beam swallowed by the suffocating blackness that seems to have a will of its own, pressing in from all sides like a physical entity. They turn, desperate to find a way out, only to be met by more catacombs, identical to the ones they just came from. Each turn taken seems to lead them deeper into the labyrinth, not out of it. They are lost, utterly and completely lost in a subterranean nightmare. Their breath comes in ragged gasps, their movements becoming more erratic as the oppressive atmosphere of the catacombs closes in around them like a tightening noose. Then, at the end of one of the tunnels, a light. A sliver of hope pierces through the despair as they stumble towards it, their eyes wide with anticipation. Could this be the way out? As they get closer, the light grows, taking on a shape, resolving itself into the silhouette of a door. With renewed strength, they push forward, their hand outstretched, fingers trembling. Just as they believe they've found salvation, the door vanishes. They are left standing in the middle of the tunnel, the light gone, the opening nothing but a figment of their imagination or a cruel trick played by the catacombs themselves. Their scream echoes unanswered in the vast emptiness, swallowed by the insatiable darkness. The air grows colder, the stench of decay more pungent, as if the catacombs themselves are closing in for the kill. They slump down onto the cold stone floor, their back pressed against the wall, their shoulders shaking with quiet sobs. What was supposed to be a rescue mission has turned into a desperate fight for survival. Now they understand the true meaning of being buried alive, not in the ground, but in the bowels of the earth, trapped beneath the weight of countless stories, surrounded by the silent screams of the damned. In the depths of their despair, they hear it, a low rumble that seems to emanate from the very core of the catacombs. It's a sound that freezes the blood in their veins, a sound that speaks of ancient evil stirring in its slumber. The ground trembles beneath them, the walls of the catacombs groaning in response. And then they see it, a slow, almost imperceptible shift in the darkness ahead. Something is moving, something that shouldn't, that can't, that simply doesn't belong in this place. It takes shape in the darkness, resolving itself into a hulking, misshapen mass that seems to defy the laws of both physics and biology. Its form is ever shifting, a grotesque parody of life, and yet there is movement there, a disturbing semblance of intent. They watch in petrified silence as the creature approaches, its presence filling them with an overwhelming sense of dread. With a final surge, it lunges forward, its form solidifying into something resembling a human, or what was once human. Its eyes, two burning embers in the darkness, lock onto theirs, boring into their very souls. The creature opens its mouth, revealing a cavernous void where its teeth should be, and lets out a deafening roar that reverberates through the catacombs, shaking the very foundations of this subterranean hell. Terror propels them forward, their footfalls echoing in the vast emptiness as they flee deeper into the catacombs. Behind them, the creature moves with an unnatural grace, its heavy footsteps silent on the ancient stones. The hunt has begun, and there is no escape. They turn, desperate to find a way out only to find more catacombs, the same oppressive darkness pressing in from all sides. The air grows colder, the stench of decay more pungent. They can feel the creature's presence at their back, its hot breath on their neck, its putrid stench filling their nostrils. And then they remember the relic, the glowing shard of crystal deep within the catacombs. It may be their only hope now. With renewed determination, they push forward, stumbling over the bones of the dead, their headlamp casting long, distorted shadows that dance around them like demons. The creature is close behind them, its presence a looming threat, urging them on, driving them deeper into the heart of darkness. Suddenly, the tunnel opens up into a large chamber, and there it is, resting on a pedestal in the center of the room, the relic, pulsing with an otherworldly glow. Hope surges through them. Perhaps this is their salvation. But as they reach for it, the ground behind them trembles. The creature has entered the chamber, its burning eyes fixed on them, its gaze boring into their very souls. It lets out a deafening roar, a sound that shakes the very foundations of the catacombs. With a burst of speed, it lunges forward, its claws extended, its jaws agape. Paralyzed with fear, they can only watch as the creature approaches, its putrid stench filling their nostrils, its hot breath on their neck. They close their eyes, bracing for the end, waiting for the searing pain of claws and fangs. But it never comes. Slowly, cautiously, they open their eyes to see the creature frozen in place, its claws inches from their face, its jaws hanging open in an eternal snarl. The relic in their hand is glowing brighter than ever, bathing the chamber in an ethereal light. The creature shrieks, a sound of pure rage and anguish, and collapses to its bones, dissolving into dust that motes dance in the sudden sunlight. The entrance to the catacombs has opened above, bathing the chamber in a warm, inviting light. They stumble out, blinking against the brightness, their bodies shaking with exhaustion and relief. Behind them, the catacombs rumble and groan, the darkness pressing in like a suffocating blanket. As they look back, they can see the relic perched on the edge of the opening, glowing softly in the darkness. It waits patiently, its light a beacon in the encroaching gloom, patiently waiting for the next soul to stumble into its deadly embrace. The circle of death continues, and the catacombs will claim their next victim soon. For the relic isn't just a source of light, it's a trap, a beacon that lures the desperate and the dying into the heart of darkness. And when they enter, the catacombs do not release their grip easily. They fight back, reaching out with spectral fingers to drag the unwary back into their suffocating embrace. As the sun sets over the horizon, casting long, eerie shadows over the land, another soul enters the catacombs. Drawn by the promise of salvation, they make their way through the maze of tunnels, their headlamp cutting through the oppressive darkness. But they, too, will soon discover that the catacombs have a will of their own, that the darkness has a hunger that can never be satiated. They, too, will hear the mournful whispers that echo through the tunnels, the silent screams of those who have come before them and never made it out. They, too, will feel the cold, clammy fingers of death brush against their skin, dragging them down into the abyss. And as the darkness envelops them, the relic will glow softly in the gloom, its light a beacon in the encroaching night, patiently waiting for the next soul to stumble into its deadly embrace. For the catacombs are a hungry grave, and they will not rest until they have consumed all light.